Hey everyone, this is Chris Berry, your certified outlaw attorney, certified financial planner. We're at one of our satellite offices. Today I'm in lovely Livonia, and we do these weekly wisdom webinars every week, every Wednesday. And really it's just opportunity for you to ask whatever legal, financial, tax questions you have, or talk about something that's going on in the news so you can get my take from a perspective of a certified outlaw attorney and certified financial planner. So at Castle Wealth Group, we do legal, financial, and tax planning for our clients, bringing in all these different areas for one comprehensive plan. So we always start with a positive focus, so something positive that happened over the previous week. And I'll share just what happened today. I'm trying to get this going. Let's see. Cool. What happened today is that my kids had their first day of school. And my son, he's going to a different school now. So now it's different than when I was growing up, but I guess 7th, 8th grade, they split them up from 5th and 6th grade. So my middle school was 5th, 6th, and what was it? No, 6, 7, and 8. But he went to an intermediate school, and now I guess they call it middle school. But it's crazy because hold on, I'm trying to. Here's the whiteboard. It's just crazy because we had to get them up at 5:40 in the morning to get to the bus at 6:40 today. And my daughter, and this is the time my son was going, her bus picks up at 8:16. So we had one bus at 6:22 and the other bus at 8:16. So it's just kind of crazy. But they're off to school again, both excited. So that is good. All right. So here's the question. So the first question, So first question is, I have a ladybird deed. I'm in Michigan, did this 3 years ago. And my understanding is that you still have to do it 5 years before you receive Medicaid, just like a trust. Is that incorrect? Yeah. So here's my answer. Yes, incorrect. So let's talk about, so what a ladybird deed is a type of deed that says it's in your name while you're alive and well, and then upon death, it avoids probate. And here's the big thing is it avoids estate recovery for Medicaid purposes. So the person's mentioning Medicaid, and understand that in Michigan, Medicaid's only going to cover nursing home costs. It's not going to cover assisted living. It's not going to cover home care. It's only going to cover nursing home costs. Average stay in a nursing home is about 2.5 years. 1 out of 2 individuals will need nursing home care. And the average cost of nursing home right now is about $10,000 to $15,000 a month. I remember when I first started, a nursing home would be like $6,000 to $10,000 a month. But at this point, with inflation and the trouble of getting workers and caregivers, typically a nursing home is going to run about $10,000 to $15,000 a month. And Medicaid is a governmental program that will help pay for nursing home care. But to qualify for Medicaid, a single individual can only have $2,000 worth of countable assets. A married couple, they're going to make you cut your assets in half. At most, you can have $120,000. And then Medicaid looks back 5 years to see if you moved any money around. And if you have, they're going to penalize you. So one of the big things that we do, and I met with a woman, a hypothetical woman today. She was 75, her husband 90. He's diagnosed with dementia at this point, still living at home. And a majority of the assets were in her name. And this was a second marriage. And she was concerned that she'd have to spend down all her money paying for his care. But one of the things that we do a lot of times is an asset protection trust called a Castle Trust that starts the 5-year look back period. And so if we move assets into the Castle Trust, we make it 5 years before we need a nursing home, then everything inside of the trust is protected from that nursing home and Medicaid spend down, including real estate. And also you would be able to sell the real estate and the proceeds of the sale would remain in the trust. Now with real estate, there's 2 things we do. We either deed it to the Castle Trust, or if we're not doing a Castle Trust, then we do what's called a ladybird deed. And what a ladybird deed is a type of deed, again, it's in your name while you're alive and well. You can sell your house, you can refinance, you can do whatever you want. If you pass away, it avoids probate and also avoids estate recovery. And the other thing to keep in mind, and I'll talk more about estate recovery in a second, but the other thing to keep in mind is that your primary residence, as long as it's valued less than $500,000 adjusted for inflation, your primary residence is exempt for Medicaid purposes. Meaning you could have a $500,000 house, and as long as, say, you're a married couple with less than $120,000, one spouse would be able to qualify for Medicaid. So the home is exempt in Michigan. But here's the thing, and this change happened, I want to say about 2014. What they said is, okay, great, your home is exempt while you're alive, but upon death, if you were to pass away and the home goes into probate, then boom, now the state of Michigan can slap a lien on that. And that's what Medicaid estate recovery is they can recover from the estate, whatever ends up in probate. And so what we see on our end is a lot of people, like they have beneficiary designations on most of their investment accounts and life insurance and things like that, but they forget to handle the house. So the house ends up in probate. And then if, let's say, Medicaid paid 6 months worth of benefits, let's call it $60,000, now they're going to slap a $60,000 lien on that home to recover whatever Medicaid paid out in terms of benefits. And so this is where the ladybird deed comes into play, because the ladybird deed keeps the home in your name while you're alive, meaning it's exempt while you're alive, but then upon death, it avoids probate and thereby avoids that estate recovery. And this can be done if you had a loved one in a nursing home right now. So the question is, I did this 3 years ago, is there a 5-year look back period for Medicaid for ladybird deed? And the answer is no, there's no look back period. As long as it's a primary residence valued at less than $500,000 adjusted for inflation, we can do a ladybird deed where it is exempt while you're alive for nursing home and Medicaid purposes, and then upon death avoids probate and avoids estate recovery. We do tons of ladybird deeds. We probably, I'm guessing, probably do maybe like 200 ladybird deeds a year. So we do a ton of them. And really, it just depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, whether we would do a ladybird deed or whether we would deed it to an asset protection trust. If you have more assets that you want to protect in addition to just the house, then typically we just set up an asset protection trust like a castle trust and deed the property to the trust. Also, it gives us more flexibility with the trust because we could sell the property. Let's say we were in assisted living and we didn't want to pay for the upkeep of a house, or we didn't really have a purpose for the house anymore. By doing it inside of the trust, the proceeds of the sale would remain protected, versus if you're to do a ladybird deed, now you've taken this exempt asset and turned it into a countable asset. So great question on ladybird deeds. Always happy to talk about them. They're one of the best planning tools we have. Super easy to set up, very straightforward. Like I said, we do a ton of those. So real estate, a lot of times it's very important to protect the family home. Hence, we'll either do a ladybird deed or we'll deed it to the asset protection trust. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, now let's take this next question. And I'm just going to do a copy and paste. And again, if you do have a question or something is unclear, feel free to put in the Q&A and I'll go ahead and get to it. All right, here's the next question. If I am the financial and medical power of attorney and sign papers admitting someone to the hospital or an assisted living facility, am I signing that? Am I liable to pay those bills personally? Yeah, so good question here. So you've signed on as a financial and medical power of attorney. And the big thing here is you owe, kind of just generalizing, but you owe what's called a fiduciary duty. To act on the person's best behalf. So the key thing here is when you sign any papers, don't just sign it with your name, but you would want to sign a lot of times what we recommend, especially with a financial power of attorney, whenever you sign as a financial power of attorney, so you kind of do your signature. And then next to it, we recommend either like POA. So like, let's say you're signing it for your mom. It would be your mom's check. You would sign it, but then write POA. Or the other thing is agent in fact is kind of the more technical term. You're acting as an agent for them. So you're not signing on individually, you're acting as an agent for them. This used to really be a big issue where hospitals and assisted living and nursing homes, they would almost trick the kids or the loved ones into being like co-signers on the debt or the loans or the costs of whatever it was. But there's been a lot of pushback and a lot of people have kind of called the nursing homes out on this. So if you are signing anything, just make sure you put like POA or agent in fact next to it. And then you're signing as their agent. You're not signing as an individual. So kind of technical, but as long as you put POA or agent in fact next to your signature, then you're not going to be individually the one on the hook. It's going to be whoever the person you're signing for, but that's going to protect your liability. So hopefully that was helpful. All right. Next, I can't delete these. Let's see. All right, give me a second here. All right, one more signature, or one more for the debt. All right, here's another question that just came in. Oh, here we go. Eraser. Erase. All right. Here's the last question that I have submitted. So if you do have any other questions, please put it in the Q&A. Here we go. Let me copy it. And we'll paste the question that came in. All right. As a signer on a business account, am I responsible for their debt? So by their debt, I assume you mean the debt of the company. So this is similar to what I just mentioned, is that there's different roles. So like in this situation, you have the owner of the business or owners. Okay. They're the ones responsible for the debt. If you're a signer, you're just acting on behalf of the business, but there should not be any personal liability unless also you're an owner of the business. So as a signer on a business account, am I responsible for the debt? I would say no, as a general rule. I'm a bookkeeper paying bills. No, you would. Yeah. So, no, there should be no way that you would have any personal liability, unless you were doing something like super fraudulent or anything like that. But as long as you're staying within your role and you're just a bookkeeper and you're writing checks and paying bills for the business account, you're just an employee. There's a big difference between ownership and just working there. So as long as you're not like defrauding anyone or doing anything illegal, then there should be zero chance of liability, because again, you're just an agent of the company. You have no personal liability. In fact, depending on how the company is set up, the owners might not even have personal liability. That's why we set up companies in the first place. We set up limited liability companies so that if the business is debt and the business goes under, the individual has zero ownership of that debt. And that's for the owners of the business. So if you're just a bookkeeper at a business, there is zero liability on your end. And it's kind of similar to the previous question of you're acting more as an agent and fiduciary than you're acting as like an owner of things. So yeah, so that I would not be losing sleep over that one. There's no liability for you as a bookkeeper. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I have this week. If you do have any other questions, please put it in. The other thing I'll throw out there, I've been talking about this a lot of times on these meetings, and I was talking to another client today. I-bonds are a great opportunity. So if you have $10,000 sitting around based on where inflation is, you can get a guaranteed roughly 9% rate of return for at least until it resets within the next 6 months. You have to leave that money just sitting in the account for at least a year. There's some other kind of things to think about, but if you have just cash sitting around right now, I-bonds are still a great opportunity. You just go to treasurydirect.gov. You can open up an I-bond for $10,000 in your name, $10,000 in a spouse's name if you're married, $10,000 in your kid's names, $10,000 in a trust name. Because a lot of people, a common question right now is like, what's going on with the markets? Like most likely, we're going to see continued volatility. Things should trend up, but we have there's some things like, especially with the Fed and interest rates, that are a little bit concerning, but things should be generally trending up. But most people think there's going to be continued volatility, at least till the next presidential election. So if you have some cash kind of sitting on the side that you're not planning on using for the next year, I'd recommend you go to treasurydirect.gov and look into I-bonds as an option to put some of that cash. So it's at least keeping up with inflation versus just keeping your checking and savings account. Because again, inflation still a big concern. You saw some news stories that the government was happy that kind of the inflation rates are dropping, but it's still like we're still at record times right now. So having a lot of money sitting in cash generally isn't the best option right now. And again, I-bonds is kind of a relatively, I wouldn't say a newer concept, but used just more recently, because if you look historically, I-bonds have only given about a 1 to 2% rate of return, like historically, but just because of the record inflation we have right now, they're guaranteeing about 9%. So just something to think about, something that's come up a couple of times in conversations with clients. So I just wanted to share that. So with that, make it a great week. Thank you. Take care.